Just 2 years ago, Sri Lanka faced one of the worst economic crises in its history. Fuel shortages, food inflation, and a broken system. Now, the world is asking, has the storm passed, or is this just the calm before another collapse? The crisis pushed millions to the brink of poverty, with families queuing for days to get essentials like cooking gas and rice. Streets were filled with protests, demanding change, while the government struggled to respond to the growing chaos. Fast forward to today, some officials and media reports claim the economy is stabilizing, with inflation dropping and foreign investments trickling in. But here's the big question. Has Sri Lanka truly turned the corner, or are we looking at a fragile recovery that could collapse under the weight of unresolved problems? In this video, we're diving deep into 1. What caused the crisis in the first place? 2. The current state of Sri Lanka's economy, what's improving and what isn't? 3. The potential solutions that could save Sri Lanka or lead it into another collapse. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll have a crystal clear understanding of Sri Lanka's recovery efforts and the warning signs to look out for. Let's uncover the truth. What caused the crisis? Sri Lanka's crisis didn't appear out of thin air. While the pandemic accelerated the downfall, the seeds of the problem were planted long before. Here's the background. Sri Lanka heavily depends on tourism, contributing almost 12% of the country's GDP. When the pandemic hit in 2020, borders closed, tourist arrivals dropped to near zero, and the government lost billions of dollars in revenue. But wait, it doesn't stop there. The government made a bold and catastrophic decision in 2021 to save foreign reserves, banning chemical fertilizers overnight. While the aim was to promote organic farming, the results were disastrous. Crop yields fell by over 30%, leading to food shortages and skyrocketing prices. Farmers were devastated, and the nation had to spend its dwindling reserves importing food. Adding fuel to the fire, Sri Lanka had racked up over $51 billion in external debt, much of it owed to countries like China and India. The repayment deadlines loomed large, but the government didn't have enough foreign currency to pay its dues. The situation became chaotic when Sri Lanka officially defaulted on its debt in May 2022. At its peak, inflation hit a jaw-dropping 70%, and the Sri Lankan rupee became one of the worst performing currencies in the world. So here's the question. Was this crisis avoidable? Most experts agree that better governance, transparent policies, and diversified economic strategies could have helped prevent this catastrophe. Is recovery real or just a mirage? Let's fast forward to today. Sri Lanka has secured a $2.9 billion bailout package from the IMF. This deal has been hailed as a lifeline for the country, with strict conditions to restore stability. So, is the recovery real? Let's look at the facts. Inflation has significantly dropped from 70% in mid-2022 to around 10% today. While this is a massive improvement, did you know that many essentials are still unaffordable for average families? Food prices remain high, and wage growth hasn't caught up. Tourism is showing signs of a comeback. In 2023, Sri Lanka welcomed over 1.5 million visitors, and projections for 2025 expect that number to rise above 2 million. But here's the problem. This isn't enough to cover the billions in foreign reserves Sri Lanka desperately needs. Another challenge is the IMF's strict conditions. To secure the bailout, Sri Lanka had to raise taxes, cut subsidies, and reduce public spending. While these measures are designed to stabilize the economy, they've placed a heavy burden on everyday citizens, leading to further unrest and dissatisfaction. Perhaps the biggest threat to Sri Lanka's recovery is its massive debt. Despite the IMF deal, the country still owes billions to international lenders. If these loans aren't restructured or forgiven, Sri Lanka could remain in the same position again. The human cost. What's happening on the ground? While numbers and policies paint part of the picture, let's not forget the most critical part of this crisis: the human cost. For the everyday Sri Lankan, life is still far from easy. Did you know that nearly 25% of the population currently lives below the poverty line, struggling to afford even the most necessities? Despite inflation cooling down, the cost of living remains incredibly high. A family of 4 spends over 30% of their monthly income on food. Staples like rice, vegetables, and cooking oil are still beyond reach for many. And it's not just food. Electricity bills have skyrocketed by over 65% due to subsidy cuts, leaving families to make tough tough choices between light and heat. Did you see the ripple effect of these challenges on education? Parents are pulling children out of school because they can't afford transportation or school supplies. The country risks a generation growing up without proper education, and with it, Sri Lanka's hopes for long-term growth and innovation may vanish. Healthcare is another area under severe strain. Hospitals face shortages of essential medicines, and rural clinics are understaffed, with doctors leaving for better-paying opportunities abroad. Imagine being in a medical emergency, only to find no doctor available. But perhaps the most heartbreaking trend is the rise in mental health struggles. Suicide rates in Sri Lanka have increased significantly during the crisis as people grapple with unemployment, financial stress, and feelings of hopelessness. Young people, in particular, are losing faith in the system, with many choosing to migrate in search of stability. Yet, amidst all this, there's resilience. Sri Lankans have come together through grassroots initiatives, from community kitchens to volunteer networks, to help each other survive. This spirit of unity and survival shows that while the system may be broken, people are not. What's the solution? So, what's next? How can Sri Lanka escape this cycle of debt and crisis? Experts believe that there are 3 key steps Sri Lanka must take to secure long-term stability. 1. Diversify the economy. Relying solely on tourism is like putting all your eggs in one basket. Sri Lanka must invest in IT, manufacturing, and agriculture industries. For example, did you know Sri Lanka is a major exporter of tea and textiles? By modernizing these industries and adding value through innovation, the country could generate much-needed revenue and create jobs. 2. Address corruption. Corruption is one of the root causes of Sri Lanka's problems. In its 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index, Transparency International ranked Sri Lanka 101st out of 180 countries. To regain public trust and attract foreign investments, the government must tackle corruption head-on, implement reforms, and hold officials accountable. The shocking question. Here's a startling fact. 500,000 Sri Lankans left the country for better opportunities abroad over the past 2 years. This brain drain is a ticking time bomb. Without skilled workers, how will Sri Lanka build a brighter future? Did you see what's happening with the youth? Many young professionals are giving up hope, frustrated by the lack of opportunities and rising costs. This isn't just about money, it's about the soul of a nation. To wrap things up, the question remains, is Sri Lanka's crisis over? While there are positive signs, the road to recovery is long and full of challenges. The government must boldly diversify the economy, root out corruption, and restructure its debt. At the same time, Sri Lankans need opportunities to rebuild their lives and regain their trust in the system. If you found this video insightful, hit the like button to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into global issues. Before you leave, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Sri Lanka can recover, or is another crisis just around the corner?